I'm gonna add me remove the tomato. No jokes on that one, but here we go. Let's get the music out. There we go. I should learn how to fade that, right? That'd be more exciting as the whole thing goes. All right, look, I fixed my hat today for you. Just for you. For nobody else but you. I didn't shave though. Sorry about that. We'll work on it. We're moving forward. You know what we're trying to do? Here's what we're trying to do. Well, we're trying to develop good habits. Is it not the case? So, what are your habits? Are they good habits, bad habits? I'm sure they're good habits. They should be good habits. And those things that we do tend to lead to other things that we do and how people see us. And now we're back to that branding thing. And by gosh, that just comes up all the time. All the time. What is our brand and the rest of that stuff? Well, we could talk about that as to how other people see you. That's important. It's actually very important. What we do, what our actions are, what we post in articles and things like that, even what articles we share. But there's a disconnect there. There really, there is a disconnect in that. Because look, I could write anything. Oh, I could write all kinds of stuff. Is it really true? Yeah, no, fake news. We're back to that again. We're gonna stay away from politics today and the rest there. We're gonna let them battle it out down in Washington. Gosh, it's unbelievable. All right, let's just go with that one. Unbelievable. We'll move on to something else. But I could write anything. I write anything one time. Is it true? Is it not true? Do you really know? I mean, do you really know? The answer is you have no idea. I could post anything about I could write anything about anything, and you have no idea. I could be plagiarizing something and do that. Now, if I do that 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, you believe it. You definitely believe it. Now, does that still establish me as somebody who is true? No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. This is where it goes to see is the actions of a person consistent with that stuff. Now, if I'm out there speaking in front of an audience and writing about the same thing, that moves it up a little bit. If you're getting asked questions and you're impromptu answering those questions right off the tip of your tongue, oh, now all of a sudden you've got it there too. And there's a whole wide variety of different ways for you to use your voice to build your brand and build your business, establishing credibility, all the rest of that kind of stuff. It's true. So any one thing does not really do it. One thing done, not a brand, not anything, not your personality, not nothing. You post one thing once and never do anything again. Well, you have an outward personality. It's just going to be forgotten. But there's people around. Is that something important? Without a doubt. Without a doubt. That's another factor that goes into it. You are those people that you are surrounding yourself with. That's when you want that like-minded community. I'm not talking about the same kind of people. I'm talking about the same kind of attitude. You want to be with you have a business you want to grow, be with other people that are growing their business. Learn from people that have grown their business. But be with other people that are growing their business. Right? Mentorship. I was at a meeting this morning too. It's a small business development center. You got that SCORE, Miller Business Center. These are places I talk about frequently. Frequently, those are people, and they have coaches that are there that have been there, done that. More SCORE in the SBDC, the Miller Business Center, a little bit more on the resource side of things. Actual like Dun and Bradstreet, those kinds of things. But SCORE, that's retired executives. They want to share their information. In fact, they're always looking for people. The other group, the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, the folks that they have as part of the team over there, those are people that have been successful in their careers, successful in various industries. They want to share their information. Should you be networking with them? No. No. Should you be using them as mentors? Yes. You should be networking. You should be working with, partnering with, whatever, being involved with, being a part of a group, being a part of a mastermind group, whatever, with people that are like-minded. And when others find out about it, now all of a sudden you're building up that whole brand thing because now people see that, One, you're talking about something in written form. You're saying something about something in verbal form. And those are the folks that are appearing on your LinkedIn, Facebook, and other places. They all back up some of the things you say. You post an article and they like it, they comment on it. It all adds to your credibility. It all adds to your credibility. But how do you get started with all of that? And who's the most important person? You. Without a doubt, it's you. So this morning, again, go to synagogue in the morning. I'm going more times than not in the morning hours. And that Rabbi always makes a comment in the end. He all the time, whether I'm there or not. He always does. But this morning we were talking about taking for granted, taking things for granted, not appreciating some of the things that we have, even if we're struggling, but not appreciating things that we have. And the reality of the comments being made by the others in the room over there, this one turned into a bit of a discussion. Why? Because we can all relate to it. Because we're all guilty or participate, or we all do the same thing. Do we take for granted where we are today, what we have today, and do we recognize the fact that we are, well, I'm going to say, I don't think the word is lucky, that we put ourselves into a situation where we've been able to grow, or you can gather the religious aspect of that, whatever you believe in on that one. We're going to kind of let that one go by the wayside. We'll save that for the morning or your afternoons or evenings or whatever it is that you do or don't do, in that respect. But do we take things for granted? Don't do. That gives me an idea. I actually prepared to this one. But do we take for granted the stuff that we've got? Do we take it for granted, or do we really appreciate it? I know my experience with speaking to some folks that have been through massively challenging situations is when things are good, they really appreciate it. And others, and I know I'm guilty of this one too, it's like just don't appreciate some of the things, that we're able to do or could do, and the rest of that stuff. It's like, really? And that comes from within. And I think that really has to do with, that outward brand as well. So Stephen Covey, look at this. I prepared. I didn't go terribly far to prepare. Let's not get crazy here. Mr. Martinez, how are you there, buddy? And Karen, good to see you. So this guy, Stephen Covey, you might have heard of him. And if you haven't, well, you probably should. There's Living the 7 Habits, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. What was really cool, just remember the story on this one. So one of the professors over at Stony Brook University had heard about our Toastmaster meeting. It's what like opportunities come up. It's just kind of crazy, as that goes. So he comes over to me and he went over to the Toastmaster Club and he said, I'm teaching a class to my students about Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And he said, one of them has to do with, communication skills. Would somebody in the club like to present to our students? So I'm thinking, yeah, I tend to think so. I believe in fact, I know I was president of the club at that time. So yeah, absolutely. Boy, oh boy. I learned something about myself that day. One is that I absolutely loved that. It was just great. We were in the stadium seating set up in the school, one of the auditoriums, but stadium seating. In other words, stage was here, students were here. Right? Not like like a movie theater, kind of thing, but just much more extreme. Like you go to a hockey game, basketball game, something like that, right? The seats are up, stage is down, seats are up. And I'm listening to Tony Robbins stuff at the time. Gosh, mine alive. So I was like, yeah, absolutely, man. Okay, communication skills. I did. I don't remember exactly what it said. It really doesn't make too much of a difference. The point of this whole thing. But everything is a learning experience. And maybe I didn't take for maybe I did take for granted where I'd been with the whole speaking things and stuff like that. But man, I got up there and I learned something about myself on that day too. I'm no Tony Robbins, and I don't want to be Tony Robbins because I gave that speech like I'm bouncing back and forth on the stage. The whole stage, man, got to use the stage. Not true. I used that whole stage over there, and I spoke to the students, and it was, I satisfied the needs of the professor on that one. So that was definitely a cool thing to do. But opportunities present itself. Now the question is, and this where it goes back to like the networking and something else is like that imposter syndrome. How do you get through that imposter syndrome? Well, I think in order to do that, you got to really figure out, in your own mind what your real skills are and what you're able to accomplish. And don't take for granted who you are. We've been through a bunch of different things. Some of us been through a lot more than others. Granted, some folks haven't been through anything. I don't know. I don't know who they are. I, I don't. I don't know who they are. But then many times, so they're just assuming they're taking things for granted. That the trust fund babies, the rest of that stuff. Watch one of these videos, like asking these young men, what their income was, how much money they got in the bank, and they're on Rodeo Drive. And one of these kids said he was a trust fund baby. He's like, what do you do when you need money? I call daddy. This guy's in his mid-20s or something like that. I call daddy. You call daddy. It's like, well, what happens if that trust fund gets cut off? Like, who are you? Where the other ones that were talking about, they knew who they were. So don't take anything for granted. You got that feeling of that imposter syndrome? You know what? Relish it. Relish it. And then go back and see what it is that you've been able to accomplish. Really what it is that you've been able to accomplish. And what you've been able to help others accomplish along the way too. Because that is a great accomplishment. It feels so good. So good. When somebody comes to you, it's another Toastmaster story, but somebody comes to you and say, you might not remember this, but you helped me doing this whole thing. This was a Toastmaster story. We had, there was a youth group. So these are kids that wanted to do a program at the Chinese Cultural Center, and it was in Nassau County someplace, about 45 minutes from where I am. Not exactly the most convenient thing to get to and all the rest of that. But they wanted to do it, and I was all into the Toastmaster thing. Still am. I was like, yeah, let's go. And then, got to get some volunteers. This woman, Fern, came down as one of the volunteers and doing the whole thing. And it went well. Years later, she calls me up. Oh, we ran across each other someplace, man. We ran across each other at an event. She said, Brian, you might know this, but what? She said that relationship with the Chinese Cultural Center led her to a teaching position over there. It wouldn't have happened, unless made the introduction. All I did was make an introduction. Actually, I didn't even do that. I asked her to do me a favor. Wow. How many times have you just asked somebody to do them a favor and you're looking at it like that and they're looking at it as, wow, the person thought of me. The person thinks well enough of me to be a part of something that they're involved with. It's called a win-win situation. Just so happens those win-win situations are one of the 7 habits that is mentioned in this book, Living the 7 Habits, The Courage to Change by Stephen Covey. And I'm going to read this because I have the microphone. Hey, Rita, how are you? Here we go. Habit number 4. Why didn't I start at habit number 1? Because, well, I didn't. That's actually being proactive. Like, who wants to be proactive? We could be reactive. That's improv comedy. Let's just say that. Habit number 4, think win-win. And this is a key to it. This is so important. So important. Thinking win-win is a frame of mind and heart that seeks mutual benefit and is based on mutual respect in all interactions. Yes. It's about thinking in terms of abundance and ever-expanding pie, a cornucopia of opportunity, wealth, and resources, rather than of scarcity and adversarial competition. It's not thinking selfishly, win lose, I win, you lose. Or like a martyr, lose win. Man, I'm going to do this because I know it's good for the other person, regardless of. But I can relate to some of these things on both sides, by the way. In our work and family life, members think interdependently in terms of we, not me. Thinking win win encourages conflict resolution and helps individuals seek mutually beneficial solutions. It's sharing information, power, recognition, and rewards. It helps everybody. This goes on to everything. I can make references again to what was discussed this morning, about the whole idea of charity, the whole idea of helping people. We should you help somebody that that just people that look, I think the tendency and is to help family first. It's family, friends, those in our community, and then kind of expand from there. But that whole win-win and expanding is part of it. It's a big time part of it. Absolutely. Who are we going to help first? You're going to help first the people that you love, right? It's the family, without a doubt. Without a doubt, goes without question. I think that was even mentioned in the books this morning too, in the English version of what I was reading. Without a doubt. And actually it was part of the whole thing in there, just as well. But yeah, but it expands. But what about helping people that have been through tough times? What about helping people that you just may not get much or anything out of it? That win-lose situation. Well, I don't think that there really is a win-lose situation. I don't think that's in one of these books. Although it might one of these habits, but it might have been actually when it comes to that goodwill deposit, and maybe that is where I saw it. Inside of whereas you could save that one for another day. But the goodwill deposit. Oh, yeah, there we go. It's not a goodwill deposit. I heard a goodwill deposit by somebody else. We can comment on business books too, right? The emotional bank account. An emotional bank account is a metaphor, the amount of trust in a relationship, like a financial bank account. It's something we make deposits into and withdrawals from. Actions such as seeking first to understand, being kind, making and keeping promises, being loyal to the absent increases the balance of trust. Being unkind, breaking promises, and gossiping about someone who is absent decrease or even bankrupt the trust in a relationship. That is not exactly what I was talking about. Should have prepared and read that one first, but it's not it. Here's the goodwill deposit. And this is why there is very few true win-lose situations if you're doing something out of the goodness of your heart or because you really want to, and you're going to get nothing in return. Nothing in return. Tell you, sometimes networking events. Go to a networking event, like you're sitting at home, you're like, just feel like going out someplace. It's like, go to a networking event, free ZD or something, over at those things too. One guy I know kind of joking around, but it was serious. It's like, and this was actually, I don't even think it was pre-COVID, but pre-COVID, it's like, oh yeah, if you wanted to, you could eat out every night of the week at some networking event someplace. He's right, man. They're all over the place. But you're home, you're like, oh boy, man, I just want to go. I don't, yeah, nothing's gonna happen, there. That's it. So, is that a win? Is that a lose win situation or win lose situation? Is it just an absolute waste of time? The answer is sometimes you go into something with no expectations. Like, I'm just going to go grab myself a plate of ziti. Or you go to a meeting, you expect 20 people, it's 3. It's like, oh man, this is going to be less than desirable, or it's going to suck, right? And it doesn't. It doesn't. Because there is value in everything, virtually everything that you do. All right. Virtually everything you do. You go out to that meeting that you didn't expect anything from that networking meeting. And you know what you do? You enjoy yourself. It's a carefree night going out. Maybe you meet somebody. Maybe you do have a conversation with somebody that you just didn't expect. Actually makes it that much more worthwhile because not uh, it was not planned. It was not anything. It was just a natural fit. That's a natural fit. You go out, you help out some nonprofit just because it's a good nonprofit for you, not expecting anything back. All of a sudden, boom, things happen. Because ultimately, people want to be in a win-win situation. People that you think of, that you meet, that maybe you have a off-the-wall conversation about, you're going to find that you have something in common. And it's these situations that you go to, or these situations where you're not expecting anything out of it. All of a sudden, you're like listening a little bit differently as that goes. But what happens too, even if you get nothing back, even if you get nothing back and you share a thought with somebody, that's what you call a goodwill deposit into your own account, into you, into you. And then you get a chance to share some stories about that. Now all of a sudden you're sharing something that was good with other people. That's another one of these, helps you to build a brand. Like we all want to work with people we know, okay, we like, yeah. Well, if other people like you, then that's good, right? Here's a reality one. How many times, right? This is where you should be very careful on social media. How many times did you get a friend request from somebody on LinkedIn or Facebook or one of the others? And you go take a look and like they got 12 friends, nobody else. And then you go take a look and you say, you don't know any of those people. And you're thinking, wow, I don't know how many billions of people are on this planet or how many millions of people are on Facebook or LinkedIn. But there are millions of people on Facebook and social media. How was I so blessed to be the one person for you to reach out to? And you have 12 friends and nobody knows me. And I don't know any of those people. It's like, guess what? That's not a good profile. That's the social media aspect of it. Those people you don't accept because who knows what it is. That's a lose situation. So let's go with that. There's virtually everything there. But that networking event that you attend, that you just go to, all of a sudden it's like, oh man, I know that person. You share your plate of ziti. And all of a sudden somebody else comes over. It's like, oh yeah, I know that person. And next thing you know, you got a group of people. And there you go. You get these situations. That's the law of attraction. That's I think that might be the other book. I think we got that down there too. Gotta love those books. Gotta love those books. But all of that stuff there's very few things that we do that become a lose situation. It's that goodwill deposit. And it's the goodwill deposit that becomes your own internal driving force, right? Because how do you go out and achieve something? How do you go out and do something? You learn in a book, you do all the rest of that stuff. All right, all well and good. Now you have the knowledge to do it, but how do you do it? How do you do it? I'm going to build a team. I'm going to make a team, and the team is going to be great. And other thing, well, how do you build a team? How do you get on the phone? Almost sounds like an antiquated piece of equipment. But how do you get on the phone? How do you go to these events and say, this is what I'm thinking? It's a crazy idea. And you're thinking, oh my God, these people are going to think I'm out of my freaking mind. They're not going to want to listen to this thing. So how do you say that? How do you tell people, oh, I've been in corporate America for the last 40 years and I want to start my own business? And it's going to be something that nobody's ever seen before. And they're looking at you like, you're nuts. How do you leave a secure position like that to go and do something? And if they look at you like you're nuts and you don't have that internal goodwill deposits, if you don't have that internal confidence to actually stand there and say, yep, this is actually what I'm going to do. This is actually how it's taking place. And these are the actionable steps I'm taking. And that's where all of this stuff comes together. There are definitely win-win situations, the goodwill deposits, the branding, all the rest of that stuff. but it has to start from within. Are we capable of doing what it is that we think that we are capable of doing? Or are we capable of doing things that we just never thought we'd be capable of doing? Are we capable of doing things when we get put into a situation like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing? And then you do it. And then you do it. How do you do that? How does that get done? How do you get done? By not taking for granted all those things that you've accomplished. Don't take them for granted. Write it down, figure it out, go back, take a look, clean your house, pull out files. You're going to see that, hey, thank you for participating at. You're going to take a look at photos that you haven't seen for years that all of a sudden show up. All of a sudden show up. I wonder why that happens. From up above, law of attraction, by following the 7 habits. As that one goes, but it happens. So build it up from inside. You got to build that confidence going forward. You got to not assume or not take for granted all these things. Appreciate it. Every challenge you've been through, everything that you've everything that you've gone through. It all means something, including getting crazy notices here. Let's drop this one. Talk about getting friend requests from crazy places, the rest of that stuff. But don't take it for granted, folks. You've done a lot, you've been through a lot, you've achieved a lot, you've done and accomplished, and you've helped others along the way too. All of this stuff counts. All of it counts. I had a friend of mine that keeps a diary. I think that's the greatest thing. He just doesn't write much, but he writes every day. I haven't done that. I do it somewhat, with the business plans and the daily actions and all the rest of that stuff. But I've always done it more for business than anything else. Never did it on the side of things because it was just, I took it for granted. I need a favor. Can you help me out with this speech or that speech? Or, hey, I'm doing this. I need help. And somebody comes along and help. Don't take for granted that you're just looking for help. You might be helping that person along the way too. And all of that stuff is great. You are capable of so much more than you might think that you're capable of. So when you get put into that situation where you're like, hey, I've never done this before, do it. Just flat out do it. I'll give you a Toastmaster story after another in that world. I probably should give you other stories because otherwise I'm just Toastmaster, and that kind of thing. But I ran a conference one year in 2009. Never ran a conference before. 17 committees, didn't know most of those people. We never all got together in one place. Once we had the majority, but never everybody. It was a success. What did I know going into it? Nothing. What did I learn coming out of it? Quite a bit. But it was a success. You can achieve success. Have the confidence, the faith, use your goodwill deposits. Don't take for granted everything you've accomplished. And you can do whatever it is your heart sets out to do. Do it. Do it. Be realistic about it, but do it. All right. I'm not going to Mars. Who knows? Maybe I'll get to the moon, but I don't know if I'm getting to Mars. But there's a lot of other things much more realistic to do that are much more meaningful. Figure out what really makes sense for you to do and don't let anything get in your way. Continue on and make it happen. And here's what I'd like you to do once you get there. Speak well, speak often, and continue to live inspired because you will bring a load of people along with you. And they're all going to be goodwill deposits into your own personal account. Enjoy the day, man. Enjoy the day. Hey, Mike, Rita, hello, everybody else. James, good to chat with everybody. Doug, good to see you too. And of course, Karen, my lovely wife. And we have a new dog. We got it, by the way. Faith. We'll see if we get Faith on camera. Get that we adopted from Ollie's Angels. So we'll get them on there too. All right. Have a great day.